Hello and warmly welcome to SAP on Azure podcast 244. Today is June 6th, and today with Holger and Goran and myself, we'll talk anything related to Microsoft and SAP. Hello. So last weeks we had some really two very important SAP and Microsoft conference. I believe they were in the same time. So SAP Sapphire, which was Orlando and Barcelona, if I'm not wrong. Madrid. Okay, I know it's somewhere in the Spain, and Microsoft Build as well. And there was some really interesting stuff happening. AI is in all conference was mentioned, and Holger had the privilege to be on a Sapphire as well, right? So we wanted to just briefly and shortly go through it, and see some of the updates and news. There are many of them, of course, related to Microsoft and SAP as well, right? So Holger, maybe let's start with the Sapphire, right? Because, and of course, what would that mean in the context of the Microsoft, right?
No, perfect. Yeah. So let's start with Sapphire, exactly. And I think a good starting point for everyone who did not attend on site, and as you said, Goran, I was privileged enough to fly to Orlando and see the keynote live and everything. But yeah, so all the sessions are still available here at Sapphire/virtual, basically. I think you need to log in, but then there are all the keynotes and a lot of sessions that were also recorded. Unfortunately, not all the sessions were recorded, but a lot of these sessions are available. I'm saying, unfortunately, not all the sessions were recorded because I actually also had a session with Christoph Rühle from SAP.
Okay.
We had a session around Joule and Copilot. So Joule and Copilot.
So that was one of the announcement, right?
Exactly.
Yes.
And the really cool thing is, I mean, we had a theater. I don't know, there were like 60 seats or something like that. But the session was totally crowded. I don't know. I mean, we had like multiple rows standing. So there was a huge interest for the Joule and Copilot integration. Unfortunately, this session is not recorded, but there are a lot of other sessions that are recorded. So I think it's definitely worth to check out.
Yeah, I already see a new topic on a YouTube channel, right?
Oh, yes. Good idea. We have to do that. Absolutely. So yeah, again, so a lot of sessions, a lot of AI, a lot of Joule specific sessions. They're all here in the specific site here. When you need to log in, you need to register, but registration is free. If you don't want to register, there's also the YouTube channel from SAP, and the YouTube channel also has all the keynotes, but it also has some highlights that you can watch. So if 2 hours or whatever is too long, then there's a 10-minute, 15 minutes recap of these sessions. So I think this is also definitely worth it. And I think especially the keynotes. I know last year there was a lot of criticism on the keynote from Christian Klein. I think this year it was really good. They had a lot of good announcements, but also the story, the way how they presented it was really nice. They had some great customers there as well, talking about their journey to RISE and what they do with AI and stuff like that. So I think it's definitely worth to spend some time to watch the keynotes. If you want to read, if you prefer reading, then there's also the innovation guide for Sapphire. So they're clustered basically in all these areas. A lot of topics are also there. If we take a look at the Microsoft specific announcements, exactly, then while Vice President of SAP, the SAP Business Unit, released a blog post where we talk about the joint innovations. So really SAP and Microsoft together, and maybe we can quickly go over that. Yeah. So yeah, there's a business suite. So one of the important topics from Sapphire was really the SAP Business Suite. So really clustering or combining all of the SAP solutions together in this business suite. And there is an acceleration program for the SAP Business Suite with Microsoft Cloud. So if you want to use the Business Suite, but obviously want to leverage the benefits of the Microsoft Cloud, there is now a specific acceleration program, mainly focusing on partners to help this.
And second, super interesting for me, as an HA guy, the RISE announced exclusivity for now. It's on the RISE on Microsoft. It's 99.95 SLAs, which basically will go across the zones, which is really unique for the RISE, right?
And actually, I think the cool thing is, I recently read in a Gartner report, so in the analyst Gartner, that there was some complaints that the SLAs in RISE are too low for some customers.
Yes.
And as you said, this is a first. So this is a unique offering from Microsoft and SAP. We are the first cloud provider, as you said, to offer these very high SLAs for Azure. I don't know, Goran, if you were involved in, I guess certainly your concept and
Yes,
and ideas contributed there certainly for increasing the SLA. So I think this is really cool. Then I think the Business Suite is nothing without the Business Technology Platform. And here, both the Business Technology Platform and the Business Suite will be available on the Azure Marketplace. I also think that's something really interesting for a lot of customers, because they have contracts already with Azure. They have credits with Azure, and now they can, or in the future, then they can also use this to transact or get the BTP or the suite via the Azure Marketplace. I think that's also something cool. Another huge topic at Sapphire was Business Data Cloud. And the interesting thing is Business Data Cloud with SAP Databricks will also be available in Q3 on Azure. And I think also there, the unique thing is that unless with other cloud providers, we are actually using our first-party Azure Databricks service. So if you remember, if you go to Azure today, there's a dedicated Azure Databricks. So a first-party service, which means it is also easily available for other Azure services. And now this Azure Databricks will also be used in the context of SAP Business Data Cloud.
And that's a great flexibility for the customers, so because then they already have experience, so maybe they use certain components there, so they can integrate it. And integration is always can be expensive if it's not available out of the box.
Yeah. So I think that this is also really cool. We
Joule
talked about
in the Copilot. That's even news for me. All right. Yeah. Okay.
So I think this is really cool, and as you said, we will have a deep dive on this at some point in time. Business Network Material Traceability on Azure. This is a new solution. Honestly, I'm not too familiar with this, but I guess it's good that it's now available on Azure. So
RISE acceleration program. I'm very much involved into this topic. Yes, and it's a big joint program between the SAP and Microsoft to accelerate and safeguard actually the SAP customers to RISE on their journey. So I'm pretty sure we'll have also some sessions on these topics as well in the future, right?
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Cool. Good. And then when we go to security, I think there were also some really interesting announcement. Of course, there's the new European digital commitments from Microsoft to really ensure. Brett Smith was in Europe a few weeks ago, where he enforced or strengthened this European digital commitments from the Microsoft side. But what I also find really interesting is this Sentinel and Defender integration. We had talked about LogServe and in the context of RISE, how LogServe and Sentinel can be used, but there are a lot of other scenarios now where Sentinel is integrated in LeanIX, which we talked about, where Sentinel has deeper integration in other Microsoft solutions, where really the Defender suite from Microsoft helps to protect your SAP system. So there were quite a lot of announcements around this as well. Then without going too much into details, here these are just more insights on the topics that we just talked about. So I think obviously we'll put all the links in the show notes, but this is definitely something worth to take a closer look at. This was again the blog post from Wael. Now also from an engineering point of view, Goran and where both of us where we are part of, here in Shah, had also a dedicated blog post where he talked about the co-innovations that we are doing with SAP. So really from a development point of view, what we're doing there. Similar, obviously there are a few similar topics. Like I think the high SLA. No, actually the high SLA is not here. But when we start with security, so there's the agentless data connector. So in the past, you had to install and own dedicated Docker container. This is now all handled via the integration suite on BTP, which is really cool. The Defender integration in other SaaS application is something that is really cool. One of the topics that I was also working on quite a bit is the SAP OData integration as a knowledge source in Copilot Studio. And we should also have a session on this in the future, Goran, because this is also a really cool way how to connect your Copilot Studio to your SAP system. So this is something quite cool.
And this is just I'm always amazed by how the Microsoft ecosystem is there, So there are so many different technologies and the connectors, and basically you just reuse them in the new context of the AI.
Absolutely.
Copilot, Foundry, and this makes stuff so much easier, so much. You don't have to reinvent the wheel, how shall I get the data from there? You just have it. You have all the security. You just plug it in, right? Already existing stuff improve, and that's amazing. That makes life so much easier, to onboard and use this new functionality as well in the SAP context also, or a different one.
No, this is exactly how I feel, Goran, because when we started with the SAP Data Connector, it was just for Power Automate. And then, yes, we added single sign-on with Entra support, Entra ID support and stuff like that. But now, when the colleagues from the knowledge source team in Copilot Studio started to connect to other systems, we said, well, why can we not just reuse the SAP Data Connector that is already there? We have all the enterprise readiness stuff already. So they connected it. They did some work on top, but it's really cool to see how easy it was to just get this technology foundation now exposed in Copilot Studio for this knowledge source integration. So it was really cool to see how these things pop up everywhere and we can just reuse these components.
Right. Yeah. So here and also mentioned the new M series, the smaller one, which gives customer a lot of flexibility and granularity. They don't want to go always for the highest one, but also the top one, so 24 terabyte to 32 terabyte, right? So these are not just the highest RAM, it's also the newest hardware, faster, more stable, and then with more feature, so and then also basically a Sybase ASC database backup support from Azure Backup. This is really, expansion again, which is great. So basically, we do have a 6 supported database in the SAP context.
Cool. Yeah.
From not from the Azure Backup, but from what is generally supported from on Azure. However, of course, there is always ask each customer on one of those 6 databases would love to have Azure Backup. So it is a really great story here that we have Sybase as well here. The SDAF, SAP Test and Automation Framework, we talk about this, was it last time, so about those inventory checks and also for those testing failover checks out of the box, whatever. It's a great functionality, very, very important and very useful, right? And then we have, of course, much more in detail.
The details,
but really, I would say when you summarize it from Microsoft and SAP's, from our Microsoft perspective with SAP, there is really a lot of new announcement and new features in functionalities in all different directions.
Yeah, and I can tell you, I mean, I was there. I was at the booth at Orlando, and we had a lot of customers coming by.
Really?
I mean, there were a lot of questions, obviously, about Joule and Copilot. There were a lot of questions about data, the whole Fabric integration, how to get data from DataSphere or from BDC. How does BDC and Fabric work together? We had a lot of questions still about M365. So integrating SAP data in Teams, in Outlook and stuff like that. So there we had a lot of questions. We had security. That was interesting. We really security was really a huge topic actually. So a lot of companies came by and asked about log-serve integration with Sentinel. I think especially for customers, yeah, that are on RISE and that were before on-premise, where on-premise, obviously, they have full access to all the logs. They know exactly what's happening. Now they are in RISE. They give up control, obviously, and with LogServe and Sentinel, they at least get a closer look at what's actually happening in this hosted systems. So I think that was really great to see all the traffic at the booth there at Sapphire. So it was really a great event, I would say, at Sapphire.
Yeah. When you say security, first thing what came to my mind, it's basically all those AI stuff like Copilot that we use every day inside of the Microsoft, which is in all this Office 365 integrated, is that it respects the existing security.
Yeah.
So if I put some files and only those folk who have access will be able to see it, right, and get some kind of information. So basically, there is security first. This is one always important initiative inside of Microsoft, and it just has to be there in every different level, right?
Yeah.
Super.
So that was Sapphire. Now in parallel, which was challenging to some extent because the keynote was running in parallel, but in parallel we did have Microsoft Build, as you said. So Microsoft Build was in Seattle. I would say unlike Sapphire, so Sapphire is obviously more a business event, and Build is more a developer, more a technical event. I would say more like SAP TechEd in this regard. And Build came also with lots and lots of announcements. Again, here the cool thing is, I mean, it was an on-site, but also a virtual event. So for everyone, you can just log in, you can register. Then again, all the keynotes, a lot of sessions are all accessible. So you can watch the keynote from Satya, from Kevin Scott, from Scott Guthrie, from Charles Lamanna, and so really a lot of really also cool sessions, I would say. Then obviously I guess some of you know Scott Hanselman or Mark Rusinovich. They had a really nice session, but yeah, I wasn't on site, but obviously I tried to watch already some of the sessions, and there's some really cool content there as well. Similar like with SAP, there's also the YouTube channel, and the YouTube channel here also has some oh, here, I didn't see that. Microsoft Build in 60 seconds. So if you don't want to spend 2 hours to watch the keynote, you can also watch the whole event in 60 seconds. I hadn't realized that, but that sounds interesting. So there's definitely, yeah, a lot of content here as well. Again, if you want to read through it, then there's the book of news. You can see it's a long book of news. So there's a lot of content here as well. Again, let's not go through all of this. It doesn't make sense. Just from an SAP perspective, there were obviously similar announcements to what we announced also in parallel at Sapphire. So some of these things were repeated there. There were announcements, for example, also, or some highlights as well for the Joule and Copilot integration. So this was also featured at Build. The Joule, or the SAP Joule agent, is leveraging something called the custom engine agent, and SAP is one of the first or was one of the first partners who actually develop and release a custom engine agent on the Copilot platform. So I think that was also a big announcement. Then one other thing, Kevin Scott. So there's the keynote also from Kevin Scott. He, among other things, I mean, there was a lot of agentic web announcements there, but one of the topics that he also talked about was the A2A protocol and also MCP.
Yes.
And in this session, he actually also had, among others, Walter Sun from SAP talking about the collaboration with Microsoft on the A2A protocol and how the Joule and Copilot basically like agent-to-agent interoperability, how Microsoft and SAP are working together there. So that was also great to see.
Yeah. So basically, it's not just the AI agent; it's agent-to-agent. It's multi-agent system, And one of the stuff was very interesting. They announced this agent-to-agent functionality in a Copilot Studio. So basically, we have Copilot, which is low-code, Copilot Studio low-code, Copilot is no-code, Copilot Studio no-code, low-code, and Fabrics, which is a dev stuff. So Copilot Studio is a kind of in between, right? Still no-code and low-code, and to offer there using all those existing components, what we mentioned, to tweak it around and create it a workflow. To have this functionality of multi-agent inside, it's really something exciting because it's helping, beginners, right? Or maybe no coders, so to say, to really implement some in a super easy way, the new scenarios, a new advanced scenario in an easy way, right? Let me say. Well, that's exciting, quite.
No, absolutely. And I think one other cool thing that was also shown during build was the researcher. And actually, let me maybe quickly show this over here. So in Copilot, in M365 Copilot, there's now the researcher, which basically has a deep reasoning engine. So you can ask a question. It then really takes some time to reason over your question. But the really cool thing, the really interesting thing there is that it allows you to, or it leverages, again, the Microsoft Graph. So it has access to your emails, to your Teams messages, to documents that you have access to that were shared by others to you. And that is something that is working amazingly well. I'm really surprising. So if I have a meeting with a certain customer, Contoso, next week, I can just say here, researcher, please help me prepare a meeting prep for the meeting with Contoso or whatever, and then it goes through previous meetings of mine, transcripts in the context of Contoso or whatever, and it creates a beautiful briefing document. It's amazing, and if you have access to Microsoft 365 Copilot, I can only recommend to give it a try.
So what I'm doing is basically, I was 1 week on vacation, so disconnected, and I said, okay, please summarize me in the last week all the mails related to RISE acceleration program, and sort it with for each customer separately and who mentioned what, and go through the emails and team, and it really did amazing job. And it's also basically put for each part. You have a link to the mail, a link to the chat box, so you can double check it really how it is, It is really a help. It is really a great help in everyday today life, So, as you mentioned, customers who have it, just they can just use it, One stuff what I was really impressed with the demo. I don't know, have you seen it? They were talking about this. I think it was researcher about how it can help to synthesize the new material.
Yes.
And they were talking, let's kind of synthesize. It was a kind of short demo. Some new material, which would be it would be a liquid with the idea to cool the CPU, right? So it didn't exist, and it on the end he said. So the AI generated the one, and he said, look, but this is really what we did some time ago, and this is the liquid that exists and we are using for the cooling. I mean, it was really amazing. Exactly.
It was. I also saw that. Yeah, it was absolutely mind blowing. Yeah,
mind blowing. Yeah. Agree.
So I'll put the link to the video there as well,
yes.
because I think it's 5 minutes, but it's amazing. It's really cool.
It is exciting time. Yeah, it is exciting.
It is.
Yeah,
absolutely. Good. I would say with this, let's
finish it.
Close the session for now with the summary of Sapphire and Build. I think there were a lot of cool, amazing things that were announced in the context of Microsoft and SAP. Obviously, there's much more content, but yeah, I hope we were able to give you a quick glimpse on some of the highlights. And yeah, next week we'll again continue with a special deep dive topic.
Exactly.
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Yes.
Bye bye.